In 1870, in Cleveland, Ohio, a man in his 30s controlled just 4% of America's oil refining capacity. By 1880, that number had exploded to 90%, and by 1904 he controlled 91% of oil production and 85% of final sales, essentially inventing the blueprint for every monopoly structure that still exists today. That man was none other than John D. Rockefeller. And here's the thing. The system he built didn't die when Standard Oil was broken up in 1911. It evolved. It spread. And in 2026 it controls everyone's life. The gasoline you pump, the medicine you depend on, the technology platforms you live on, the food you eat, the banks you borrow from. They all use Rockefeller's playbook. Vertical integration, horizontal consolidation, regulatory capture, tax-exempt foundations that shape politics, total market dominance that destroys competition. Rockefeller didn't just build an oil empire. He built the architecture of modern corporate control, and there is no escaping it, because the system isn't Standard Oil. The system is the method itself, and that method has been used by every major corporation for the last 150 years. Amazon copied it, Google copied it, Pfizer copied it, J.P. Morgan copied it. They all learned Rockefeller's structure: control the supply chain vertically, crush rivals horizontally, capture regulators, buy legitimacy through philanthropy, and when the government breaks you apart, make sure the pieces together are worth even more than the whole. Let me show you exactly how Rockefeller built this machine, how he became the richest man in history, how Standard Oil's breakup actually made him even wealthier, and why, more than a century later, we are still living inside the world he designed. Because understanding this structure isn't some academic exercise, it's a survival issue. This system was designed to extract wealth from you and concentrate it at the very top. And once you see how it works, you'll feel it everywhere. John Davidson Rockefeller was born on July 8, 1839 in Richford, New York. His father was a con artist who sold fake cancer cures. His mother was a deeply religious Baptist. That combination, ruthless fraud and moral certainty, shaped Rockefeller's entire worldview. He could destroy competitors without mercy, while genuinely believing that God had chosen him to bring order and efficiency to industry. It wasn't hypocrisy, it was conviction. Monopoly to Rockefeller was morally justified because it replaced chaos with control. In 1859, oil was discovered in Titusville, Pennsylvania. The oil rush began. Thousands of speculators flooded western Pennsylvania, drilling wells, chasing fortunes. Wealth was made overnight, and lost just as fast. The entire industry was chaos. Overproduction collapsed prices. Shortages sent them soaring again. Boom and bust, over and over. Rockefeller was only 20 years old, working as an accountant in Cleveland, and he saw the opportunity immediately. But not in drilling. Drilling was volatile, risky, a gamble. The real money wasn't in extracting oil, it was in refining it, turning crude oil into kerosene for lamps. That was the true choke point. In 1863, Rockefeller invested $4,000 in Cleveland's first oil refinery. Within 2 years, it became the largest refinery in the city. But Cleveland had nearly 30 refineries. Competition was brutal. Profit margins were razor thin. Most were operating on the edge of bankruptcy. And this is where Rockefeller's genius emerged. He didn't try to compete on price. He tried to end competition entirely. And he did it using the method that would become the foundation of corporate America: vertical integration. Vertical integration means controlling every stage of production. Most refineries only refined oil. They bought crude from drillers, refined it, and sold kerosene to distributors. One step. Rockefeller wanted all of them. He acquired barrel factories so he didn't have to buy barrels. He bought tanker cars and negotiated secret railroad rebates. He purchased storage facilities. He built distribution networks to sell directly to consumers. Industries that once profited independently were absorbed into his empire. This gave him overwhelming cost advantages. Competitors paid 25 cents per barrel. Rockefeller produced them for 15. Competitors paid railroads full freight rates. Rockefeller owned the tank cars, and the railroads paid him discounts, while charging his rivals more. This wasn't just efficiency, it was predation. Rockefeller could sell kerosene at prices that destroyed competitors and still make profit. In 1870, he founded the Standard Oil Company of Ohio. At that point, he controlled only 4% of America's refining capacity. That was never going to be enough. So he launched Phase 2, horizontal consolidation. If vertical integration means controlling the supply chain, horizontal consolidation means eliminating every competitor. In 1872, Rockefeller initiated what historians call the Cleveland Massacre. Over 3 months, he approached every refinery owner in Cleveland. Sell to him and he would pay fair market value, often offering them management positions. Refuse, and he would start a price war. Rockefeller would drop kerosene prices below cost. Competitors couldn't survive. Every sale became a loss. They had only 2 options: sell or go bankrupt. Most sold. Those who didn't were destroyed. By the end of 1872, Rockefeller owned 25 of Cleveland's 26 refineries. His market share jumped from 4% to 25% in 3 months. This was the formula: offer to buy. If they refuse, economically annihilate them, then buy what remains. And that method would define monopolies for the next 150 years. And Rockefeller didn't stop at Cleveland. He wanted the entire country. Throughout the 1870s, Standard Oil absorbed refineries in New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. Everywhere the same tactics: secret shipping discounts, vertical integration, price wars that wiped out holdouts. By 1879, Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's refining capacity. 90%. That isn't a company, that is a monopoly. But Rockefeller's real brilliance was still ahead. He realized monopolies faced 2 major problems. 1, they were illegal. 2, they were hated. The Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 was designed specifically to destroy monopolies like his. The public called him a tyrant, a robber baron, one of the most hated men in America. Rockefeller found the solution: the trust. In 1882, Standard Oil's lawyers created the Standard Oil Trust. It allowed Rockefeller to legally control companies across state lines. It wasn't just a company, it was a holding structure, a parent entity that owned everything, without producing anything itself. This became the ancestor of the modern corporate holding company. Alphabet, Meta, Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway. They are all descendants of Rockefeller's trust. By 1904, Standard Oil controlled 91% of refining and 85% of final oil sales. Rockefeller was the wealthiest man alive. His fortune was $900 million, roughly $25 billion today. At his peak, adjusted for inflation, he was worth nearly $400 billion, more than Bezos, Musk, and Gates combined. The richest man in modern history. And he built it through a system: vertical integration, horizontal consolidation, legal structures that concentrated control. That was the real machine. And then, in 1911, the Supreme Court ruled Standard Oil an illegal monopoly and ordered it split into 34 separate companies. This should have been the end. It wasn't, because Rockefeller still owned shares in all 34. Standard Oil of New Jersey became Exxon. Standard Oil of New York became Mobil. Standard Oil of California became Chevron. Standard Oil of Indiana became Amoco, and so on. The breakup didn't destroy Rockefeller's wealth. It multiplied it. Before the breakup, shares traded around $600. Afterward, the combined value of the 34 companies exceeded $2,000 per share. Rockefeller became 3 times richer. The monopoly wasn't killed, it was restructured. And over the next century, many of those companies merged back together. Exxon and Mobil reunited in 1999. Chevron absorbed others. BP acquired Amoco and Ohio. The Standard Oil empire quietly reconsolidated. The system survived. And Standard Oil isn't even Rockefeller's true legacy. His real legacy is the method. And today every industry uses it. Amazon applies vertical integration exactly like Rockefeller did. It controls warehouses, logistics, delivery trucks, payment systems, and even the cloud infrastructure hosting its competitors. AWS alone generates nearly $90 billion in revenue. The same playbook, different century. Amazon also practices horizontal consolidation. Whole Foods, Twitch, Ring, MGM Studios, over 100 acquisitions. And when it can't buy rivals, it copies their products and undercuts them. A modern price war, fully legal, barely regulated, devastatingly effective. Google is structured as a trust. Alphabet owns Google, YouTube, Waymo, DeepMind, Verily, dozens of subsidiaries. This is Standard Oil Trust 2.0. It makes regulation nearly impossible, because technically everything is separate. Pharmaceutical companies use regulatory capture. Rockefeller lobbied for rules his rivals couldn't meet. Today, drug companies fund the FDA through user fees. They lobby to extend patents. They write the regulations meant to control them, capture the regulators, and you capture the market. Finance copied the holding company structure too. J.P. Morgan Chase owns countless subsidiaries. After 2008, regulators struggled. Which unit do you regulate? The parent, the child. Rockefeller solved that problem in 1882. Banks just adopted it a century later. And then there is philanthropy. Rockefeller's final invention. In 1913, he created the Rockefeller Foundation with $250 million, over $7 billion in today's money. It funded medicine, education, public health. On the surface, charity, but underneath, tax avoidance, institutional influence. Legitimacy. The man who crushed thousands of rivals became a beloved philanthropist. The foundation reshaped American medical education, emphasizing pharmaceutical intervention over holistic care. This is documented history, not conspiracy. Modern billionaires follow the exact same model. Gates Foundation. Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Buffett's wealth routed into philanthropic vehicles. These are not just charities. They are influence structures. Rockefeller invented it. They perfected it. And here's the most critical part. This system was designed to be invisible until you're already trapped inside it. You use gasoline refined by Standard Oil descendants. You shop through Amazon's vertically integrated empire. You rely on Google's trust structure. You take medicine developed in Rockefeller-shaped pharmaceutical systems. You bank through holding company networks. The system sustains itself. It concentrates wealth, eliminates competition, captures regulators, buys legitimacy through philanthropy. This is the Rockefeller Playbook, and it is legal, accepted, embedded in every major industry. Rockefeller's true achievement wasn't being the richest man alive. It was building a structure that cannot be escaped. Every road leads back to consolidated corporate control. Every choice is an illusion. You aren't choosing between Exxon and Chevron. You're choosing between branches of the same tree. Google's search dominance exceeds Standard Oil's peak market share. Meta owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. You aren't picking platforms. You're picking which Meta product you'll live inside. So what do? You have three options. 1. Accept it. 2. Resist it. 3. Understand it. And position yourself accordingly. Because the Rockefeller system has extracted wealth upward for 150 years. And it will continue. Rockefeller once said, "Competition is a sin." Most people hear greed, but he meant theology. Competition is waste. Consolidation is efficiency. And that belief built the world we live in. Standard Oil was just the beginning. The method is eternal. Welcome to Rockefeller's world. If this gave you new insight, hit subscribe.